Welcome students. In this video lecture, I will give you information about the pressure volume loop. This is the third lecture in the cardiac cycle. In the previous lecture, you have learned about the phases of the cardiac cycle. So phases of the cardiac cycle, there are two phases, atrial phases and the ventricular phases. Atrial phases, they include atrial systole and atrial diastole, and ventricular phases, they include ventricular systole and ventricular diastole. Now, a lecture after that, you have learned about the pressure and volume changes or the events that occur during the cardiac cycle. Now, in that lecture, you have learned about the pressure changes that occur in the ventricle, pressure changes that occur in the atria, pressure changes in the aorta, and the volume changes that occur inside the ventricles. Now in this lecture, I will explain about the pressure volume loop and the clinical importance of the pressure volume loop in various heart diseases. So let's start. So look at this graph. Now in this graph, we can see the recording of the pressure and the recording of the volume. So it shows recording of the pressure and the volume of the left ventricle, and this is known as pressure volume loop. Now this pressure volume loop, it includes four phases. So I am going to explain all the phases one by one. First, look at the segment AB. The segment AB, it starts from point A. This point A, it is the opening of the mitral valve, and because of the opening of the mitral valve, blood flows from the atria inside the ventricles. So it leads to filling of the ventricles. At the point B, mitral valve closes, and closure of the mitral valve, it produces first heart sound. So this AB phase, it shows ventricular filling phase, and this ventricular filling phase, it includes various phases like rapid filling phase, slow filling phase, and the last rapid filling phase that coincides with the atrial systole. Now the volume inside the ventricle at the point A, it is about 50 ml, and that is the end systolic volume, and the volume which is present at the point B, it is known as end diastolic volume. So the filling of the ventricles that occur between these two phases, point A and point B, or in the AB segment, it is about 70 ml of the blood it enters inside the ventricle. Now at the point B, mitral valve closes, which produces first heart sound, and it is followed by isovolumetric contraction. Now look at the BC segment. This BC segment, it starts from the closure of the mitral valve up to opening of the aortic valve. So between this point, it is the isovolumic contraction phase. Now look at the pressure change during this phase. During this phase, pressure inside the ventricle, it rises rapidly up to 80 mmHg near to the pressure inside the aorta. When pressure rises beyond that, it leads to opening of the aortic valve. During this phase, volume inside the ventricle, it remains same, and because of that, this phase, it is known as isovolumic contraction phase. Now at the end of the isovolumic contraction phase, at the point C, aortic valve opens, and the opening of the aortic valve, it leads to ejection of the blood from the ventricles inside the great vessels. So the segment CE, it shows ejection phase of the ventricle, during which blood flows inside the great vessels. Now this CE phase, it is further divided in two phases, CD phase and DE phase. So this CD phase, it is the rapid ejection phase, and point D, it shows maximum pressure that is observed inside the ventricle during the rapid ejection phase. This maximum pressure it is observed because of the ejection of the blood as well as simultaneous contraction of the ventricular musculature. It is followed by gradual decline in the pressure inside the ventricle because of the decrease in the volume as well as relaxation of the ventricular musculature. So during the DE phase, gradually pressure inside the ventricle decreases, and at the point E, aortic valve closes. So the closure of the aortic valve at the point E, it produces second heart sound. So you must remember that at point B, it produces closure of mitral valve, which produces first heart sound, and at point E, because of the closure of the aortic valve, it produces second heart sound. Now the closure of the aortic valve, it is followed by relaxation of the ventricles, and ventricles they relax as a closed chamber. So this phase, EA phase, this is the isovolumic relaxation phase. Volume which is present at the start of this phase, this is the end systolic volume, which is about, on an average, it is about 50 to 60 ml. That is the end systolic volume. During the isovolumic relaxation phase, look at the pressure and the volume inside the ventricle. So here we can see that there is gradually decrease in the pressure in the ventricle occurs because of the relaxation of the ventricular musculature, and volume inside the ventricle it remains same. So this phase is known as isovolumic relaxation phase. Again, at the point A, mitral valve opens, and because of the opening of the mitral valve, it leads to filling of the ventricles. So these are all the pressure and the volume changes that occur during the cardiac cycle, and when we record all these pressure volume changes in a loop, this is known as pressure volume loop of the left ventricle. Pressure volume loop. It is useful to understand the work done by the heart and effect of the ventricular dysfunction on it. So first, let's understand the work done by the heart. Now, work done by the heart, it is of two types, external work and the internal work. First, the external work. External work is also known as stroke work. It means the work done by the ventricle to eject the blood inside the systemic circulation. So external work, it is also known as stroke work. Here we can see the flow volume loop. It shows the relationship between the pressure as well as the volume. So the area under the pressure volume loop, it shows the external work. Now to calculate the external work, W or the external work is equal to P. P is the intraventricular pressure multiplied with dV. dV is the change in the ventricular volume. So external work, it depends on intraventricular pressure and change in the volume of the ventricle. Now this intraventricular pressure, it depends on the resistance offered by the peripheral circulation or inside the great vessels, that is the mean aortic pressure. So various factors affecting external work, they are mean aortic pressure and change in the ventricular volume, that is the stroke volume. Now let's understand about the internal work. Now this internal work, it is also known as potential energy. Now this is the work done on the viscoelastic property of the heart. So this work, it is not converted into the external work, but it is useful to generate heat, and heat which is generated during the isovolumic contraction, it is dissipated during the isovolumic relaxation. So this potential energy, it depends on the afterload. So always remember that internal work, it is afterload dependent. So whenever afterload increases, it increases potential energy. So both internal work and external work, they shows total work done by the heart, an area which is covered by potential energy as well as the external work. This shows the pressure volume area. So here we can see the internal work or the PE. It is the triangulated area between the systolic pressure, diastolic pressure curve and the isovolumic relaxation phase of the ventricular pressure. So this pressure volume area, it shows total work done by the heart and it is directly proportional to the oxygen consumption of the myocardium. Now I will explain about the ventricular dysfunction and changes in the flow volume loop. Ventricular dysfunctions, they are of two types, systolic dysfunction and the diastolic dysfunction. First of all, I will explain about the diastolic dysfunction. Now, diastolic dysfunction, as the name suggests, it is because of the impairment in the diastole or the relaxation of the ventricles. So whenever ventricles they are unable to relax properly, it leads to decrease in the end diastolic volume. Again, because of the ejection of the blood from this reduced end diastolic volume, it leads to further decrease in the end systolic volume. Now, because of the decrease in the end diastolic volume as well as decrease in the end systolic volume, stroke volume also decreases. And all these factors together, it shifts the flow volume loop to the left side. Now in various conditions which impairs the relaxation of the ventricles, it shifts the flow volume curve to the left side. It most commonly observed in the condition with the pressure overload. For example, in the aortic stenosis. So when aortic stenosis occurs, myocardium it must increase pressure generated inside it to overcome the resistance which is offered by stenosis of the aortic valve. It leads to hypertrophy of the myocardium and it leads to incomplete relaxation of the ventricles. So the end diastolic volume decreases. So in the aortic stenosis, flow volume loop it shifts to left side. In condition with the increase in the myocardial contractility as well as the decrease in the compliance of the left ventricle, it can also shift the flow volume curve to the left side. So always remember that in the diastolic dysfunction, whenever compliance of heart is decreased and in the pressure overload, flow volume loop, it shifts to left side. Now understand about the systolic dysfunction. Systolic dysfunction, it is because of the impairment in the systole or the contraction of the ventricle. So whenever contraction of the ventricle it is impaired, it leads to increase in the end systolic volume. And because of the increase in the end systolic volume, further because of the filling of the ventricle, end diastolic volume increases. Now look at the given graph. In this graph, you can see because of the dysfunction of the systole, end systolic volume it increases from 50 ml to 100 ml. So end systolic volume increases and end diastolic volume also increases. So in the systolic dysfunction, flow volume loop it shifts to right side. In all the condition with the volume overload, for example, in the aortic regurgitation, flow volume curve, it shifts to right side. In the aortic regurgitation, because of the incomplete closure of the aortic valve, blood regurgitates from aorta inside the ventricle, which leads to increase in the end diastolic volume. And again, because of the increase in the end diastolic volume as well as the volume overload, there is decrease in the stroke volume occurs. And further again, because of all this factor, end systolic volume increases from the normal value. So in the systolic dysfunction as well as in the condition with the volume overload, flow volume loop, it shifts to right side. Now solve some MCQs for assessment of your knowledge. First MCQ, in cardiac cycle diagram, when does first heart sound occur? So here in this graph we can see pressure changes in the ventricles, pressure changes in aorta, atria. So it shows all the phases of the cardiac cycle and try to solve this question. And the answer is first heart sound occurs at the point B because of the closure of the mitral valve that occurs at the end of the last rapid filling phase or the atrial systole. Second MCQ, in pressure volume diagram, when does first heart sound occur? So here we can see the pressure volume loop, and in this pressure volume loop we can see all the events that occur inside the left ventricle. So first heart sound occurs because of the closure of the mitral valve, and closure of the mitral valve, it occurs at the end of the filling phase, and here the filling phase is AC. So at the point C, closure of the mitral valve occurs, which can produce first heart sound. So the answer is point C.